Hi, and welcome to What's on the Shelf, and we're now on part 23. So let's have a look at which games I have in this cubby. So in this one, we have Power Grid, 5 Minute Dungeon, Sushi Roll, Disney Villainous, and Onitama. So the first one is Power Grid. Power Grid, I guess, is an area control game. Each player plays as their own company running electricity and supplying electricity and power to the different towns that they control. So with this one, you'll be acquiring different ways of creating, so different power plants, different ways of generating power. In the beginning, it's mostly coal and oil, and that's going to be the most available resource to start off with. But then, as time progresses, you'll get nuclear power plant. You'll get more advanced power plants, and then you'll also get some solar or wind generated power plants where they don't actually cost you any resources, they'll just produce. So those kind of tends to be good to get. You're allowed to have up to 3 different power plants, and however much power you produce, you supply your cities. So you'll be kind of branching out and generating power to more and more as you go. And then the more cities you supply power to, the more money you get every round as well. So you kind of want to grow your network, but you got to have the resources to be able to have those power plants running, to be able to supply those cities to continue to get the money going. So it's an interesting game. It also has kind of neat catch-up mechanics. So whoever's in the first will be first in some things, but whoever's in the last will get to go first in other things. So in the bidding, whoever the last player, I think, kind of gets first go at that, as well as buying resources. So whoever's last gets to go and buy their resource first, that's important because, so let's say the coal, and you have at the bottom of the board there, you'll see there's the squares. So if your resource is in that first square, it's going to be at a lower price. And then the second square goes up a little bit, and so on. And if your power plant takes 2, you could buy up to 4. So you have 2 for this round, and you kind of build up a reserve for the next round of powering the cities to kind of get a bit ahead in your resources. So if you were going to buy 4, you would have 3 from the first and then 1 from the second one, so that one would cost you a little bit more. And with this mechanism, because last player goes first towards the first player, by the time it's the first player's turn to buy the resources, he's paying quite a bit more for them. And depending on also who all is going for the same resources. So that part is definitely very neat. This game is using paper money, which you don't see much anymore, but it's a neat one. It's fun. The only drawback I would have with this one is I found if a player gets far ahead, and you can see in the points that they are way ahead, and you can see how much cities they have and how much they can power, you can kind of be playing knowing you're not catching up, and that can be demoralizing. And a couple of games that we've had with it, we've kind of noticed that, and that's my one drawback. There's no hidden agendas, there's no last minute points or anything like that. Everything is out in the open, and it's all about supplying electricity for your cities, and if you're able to do that, then you know exactly how many points you're going to get, and so on. But it's definitely a fun game. That's my one drawback with it, is if somebody gets far ahead, demoralizing for the rest of the players and kind of takes a bit of the enjoyment out of it. The next one I have is 5-Minute Dungeon. So this game does play in increments of 5 minutes. It's a real-time game, and you're going through a dungeon, and you're going to have your boss monster in the middle. I'll show you here. So you have your boss monster in the middle, and you have all their cards. So you'll be flipping the cards, and it'll either be a small monster or a trap, and you got to play certain cards to get it out of the way. So each player has their own deck. You have access to 3 cards. Each player has their own special abilities. And you have 5 minutes to make it through all the way through all of those cards and defeat the big boss monster at the end without running out of cards. So the interesting with this is like it's really managing your cards, because so if it takes 1 sword, then one person's like, yeah, okay, I have the 1 sword, I can play that, and then it's like, okay, but it also takes a green card. It's like, oh, I have that, and then they kind of, so it's collaborating more, but the communication is key, because if you don't mention you're playing the sword and you both, 2 people both play the swords, well, that 1 sword was wasted, you've overpaid for that particular one, and it gets hectic because it's real time and you're rushing and there's a timer and you're about to die at all the time. So it's interesting. Obviously, I don't have a picture of this game ever because I'm always so busy playing that I borrowed one from the internet here. But it's a neat one. It's a hectic, fun, real-time game, and if you enjoy those kinds, then that's good. So now go back to the box here, because when I first saw this game, I'm like, nope, I am not buying this one because I did not like the shape of the box. And the box do have those cutouts. I was like, it's gonna look stupid on my shelf, but I played it at a friend's house and then I enjoyed it. So I was like, oh, fine, I'll get it anyways. So, I didn't care for the odd shaped box, but the game was good, so we ended up getting it. Then the next game I have is Sushi Rolls. So I'm a big fan of Sushi Go and Sushi Go Party, which is a card drafting resource management game. And this is the dice version of that. So it's kind of mimicking having Sushi going through a conveyor belt. So there are all the dice, they're on the conveyor belt, and then you get them, you roll them. Depending on what you roll, you'll put 1 on your own little plate. And then it gets passed around and you get the next set of dice and you roll them and you keep 1 and so on. And the menu card there, where like you see with that red area where you're putting the dice on, so that's your little plate. And on the bottom you have the menu card that shows you how everything scores. So you still have the wasabi, you have a lot of the similar things, it's just you're rolling for them now. You'll have some menu that allow you to re-roll the dice. And you have chopsticks that allows you to, before anybody gets to draw, you get to use a chopstick to swap a dice from somebody else's conveyor belt to get what you want. It's a neat one. I prefer still the card version of it, but the dice is an interesting version of it, and it's not a bad game. We've enjoyed it. We've played it a few times. It's been good. Just prefer the card version for some reason. And then there is Disney Villainous. So this one's been around for a while and everybody was talking about it. So I ended up getting it. And with this one is each character or each player gets to play as a character that is a bad guy in the different Disney movies. So when I played, I was the Queen of Heart in this picture here. So you have 2 decks. So you have your player board in the middle, and there's different areas that you can move your figurine to. And depending on where you are, what actions you can activate. So if I want to be able to draw some cards, then I would want to go to an area that allows me to draw some cards. To play cards, do the same thing. Or to play on somebody else's board, then I would have to be in an area that allows me to do that. So, and it's neat because each character plays differently. They each have their own goals. It's very well described on that player board what you're trying to do, and it kind of gives you a strategy for how you may want to do it. But each character have certain things they need to accomplish, schemes that they got to complete in order to kind of complete their evil plan, basically. And the other players all have their own things to accomplish as well. So you got your main deck where you're gonna get your cards to kind of do your biddings, and then you have the white cards on the other end, which is the heroes of your story, and they're going to mess your plans up. And what's going to happen is the other players are going to be in this area, and if they see that you're kind of starting to get ahead, they'll go ahead and play some of those white cards against you So if I select on that, then I see that my friend Brandy's ahead. So I would go, then I get to draw maybe 2 of her white cards, and I get to select which one I would play. And then it messes her plans up, and she has to rectify that before she can go ahead and win. So it's interesting because everybody, what's happening on my board is all my cards, but some of the cards is not me that's going to be playing it. The other players are going to. So definitely take that element to it, because you have to, otherwise they'll win and get ahead of you. But it's the components are beautiful. And then it comes with a big bowls that keeps some of the chips in the middle, which is kind of like your currency in here. And a friend of mine made me a 3D printed version of it, so it's a little bit deeper and a little bit more robust. Great game. Really need to get this one played again. And then I have Onitama. So Onitama is kind of like a player's or modern player version of chess. It's a very interesting game, and I was very surprised with it. And then I'll show you the box, because the box is kind of worth looking. It has that magnet close, and it wraps around the box, and then you wrap it open. Then you have the neoprene mat rolled up into it, and you have all of your figurines for the game. So each player gets 4 figurine and 1 master, and then it's red against blue. And each player gets a card that has 2 movement on it, and then there's the third movement that's in between the 2 players. So there's 5 in play each round. Now there's a lot of different cards it can do, so it changes up all the time when you play the game, because there'll always be 5 movements in the game. And then if you look on there, so if you look at the ox card, it shows the black dot shows where your character is, and based on that, where it can move. So it could go up, down, or to the side. Just on one side, right? It could go to the right. So if I looked at my master, there's somebody in front of him, so he can't go there because it's my own guy, so I could just go to the right from where that one is. And if I utilize that action, so I go ahead and move my character, then I have to swap that card with the one that's in the middle, so your movement's always a little bit different, but it's going to be one of those 5 movements. So you want to keep a look at your boards, kind of see which movements would be beneficial to you. You want to keep an eye at your opponent's play, because you don't want to give him access to a card that can mess you up too much. You're not going to have tons of control on that, but it's kind of keep an eye on that. And it's a game of chess, so the goal is to capture the other player's master, or to move your master into their temple. It's such a neat, simple version of chess, and it is fun. I love this one. And that was it for that cubby. So follow me on Facebook at Didsbury and Area is playing all the games. I am also on Instagram as BoardGame_Mama. And on YouTube, my channel is Board Game Mama. So stay tuned, and we'll see what I have on my 24th cubby next time I come.